Hi everyone, my name is Jade Calver. I own and operate Calver Immigration Consulting Inc. We are a full-service immigration firm located in Ontario, Canada. Today I'll be talking to you about spousal sponsorship applications, and I'll be doing a little bit of a how-to video as far as how to prepare your spousal sponsorship application and which documents you should be including in your spousal sponsorship application. First of all, it's important to note that as of September 2021, you can now actually file online for your spousal sponsorship application. I will link the online portal in this video so that you can see where to access it. But effectively, the guide that you'll see, that I'll link as well, is a guide for a paper application. However, you're also able to submit this online. You effectively scan your entire application and submit it through the online portal. The advantage of submitting through this online portal is that you can avoid a lengthy return process. So Immigration Canada, if your application is incomplete, they'll return your sponsorship application. And if you submit a paper-based application, what happens is that it can often take 9 to 10 months for you to even know that this application was returned as incomplete. Whereas if you submit an online application through the sponsorship portal, you'll actually know within a matter of days that the application was returned as incomplete. And then fixing it is a lot easier because effectively, what you can do is fix the issue with the application and then resubmit right away. So first things first, you can generate your own document checklist online. This will give you a list of both the documents and the forms that are required. And then in the online checklist generator, it will also generate a list of documents that are specific to your country. So you should pick both the country where you're residing as well as the country where you're from if those are different, just so that you can see specific documents that are applicable to your situation. So what happens is that you'll get the document checklist. You have to include this document checklist with the application itself. So whether you submit a permanent residency application online or by paper, you have to include this document checklist. There are a few sets of forms that you need to include in an application. So I'll run through them. So there's the 1344, which is the application to sponsor the sponsorship agreement and the undertaking. So you'll need to fill that. You have to include your application fees. There's also the right of permanent residency fee that you should be paying. The financial evaluation is only needed if the person that you're sponsoring has one or more dependent children of their own. So essentially, it's if the person is a grandparent that you're sponsoring, you have to include the financial evaluation. Class of application. So next in the checklist, you'll decide, am I submitting under the family class application to sponsor my spouse? Or am I submitting under the in Canada class? So those two different classes of application will be important when deciding if you're submitting in the out of Canada application. So that's where your spouse is residing outside of Canada as the applicant. Or if the applicant, so that's your spouse, can make it to Canada, am I filing in Canada? I only pick the in Canada application if the person knows that they're not going to leave throughout the 12 months of the sponsorship duration, because if the person leaves and then they're not allowed back into Canada, Immigration Canada will actually cancel the immigration application. So I say only pick that option if you know that the applicant is going to stay here the entire time. It's also important to note that you have no right to appeal a negative decision if you submit an in Canada application. Whereas that right to appeal a negative decision exists with the family class application. The in Canada application also comes with an optional open work permit. If the person is in status in Canada, you can also access that work permit. Next is there's a generic application form for Canada. So you have to include the applicant and their children, whether they're accompanying or not. Country-specific requirements, which I touched on a little bit earlier. So if you have any country-specific requirements or forms, such as details of your military service or your travels, you'll need to include that. There's an additional family information form. Make sure with this form that you include everyone's name in both English script as well as their native script, if that's not the English alphabet. There's a Schedule A form. This one trips up my clients a lot. Make sure that your address history is complete without any gaps in history or your personal history. You also have to detail everything that you've been doing for the last 10 years. And the application will be deemed incomplete if there are any gaps in time. So that's a really important trick to keep in mind for the Schedule A form. And then there's a last form, which is called the Relationship Information and Sponsorship Evaluation form. You might want to take some time on this one because it details how you met, what family knows about your relationship, what kind of events there were to celebrate your union if you're married. If you're common law partners, have you celebrated your union at all? This all comes together to support an application. If you're using a representative, you would then use the use of representative form. And then what you'll do from there is go through the document checklist just to run through the documents that are needed for your specific application. So, as the sponsor, you'll always need your passport, proof of income, and your CRA notice of assessment, as well as your proof of what you're doing for work or your other means of support. The applicant's documents are then their passport and birth certificates, as well as, remember, any divorce certificates for either applicant, so whether sponsor or applicant, need to be included. And then the rest of the documentation is proof of your relationship. So depending on the class of application that you're applying under, you need to follow this document checklist and include the proof of relationship in the application. It's really important that you read through this document checklist thoroughly because, as I said in the beginning, the application can be returned as incomplete. Even if you miss a checkbox on this checklist, the immigration officer can say this application is incomplete and return it. So it's really important that you go through this checklist and thoroughly complete it, as well as include all of the documents that are outlined in the spousal sponsorship checklist. Please note that the Government of Canada regularly updates this checklist. So make sure that you're keeping tabs on which versions of the forms exist, as well as this checklist. The most recent versions of the forms and checklists need to be submitted when you file an application. So that's everything for today when it comes to the spousal sponsorship application and my how-to on preparing an application. If you have any questions or need any support in filing your sponsorship application, Calver Immigration Consulting would be happy to assist. We're online at calverimmigrationservices.com.